And now it's time for Photo Booth Live Chat with John Young. Good evening and welcome to Monday night here on PBN TV. I'm John Young, your host, and tonight we're going to be talking Photo Booth Expo coming up here with Catalina Bloch. Good evening, Catalina.
Hi, John. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for coming on tonight and being with us.
I'm super excited to chat with you.
This is going to be fun. We are broadcasting to about 12 different locations tonight on Facebook and YouTube and such. You guys can join us tonight. And if you have any questions or anything that you would like, comments or anything, you can in the live chat. Just put your things there, and it should pop over to my computer here so I can see everything that's going on. We think. Technology is great, and it's supposed to basically catch everything and harvest all of those chats and put it right there. Sometimes. So, Catalina, so coming up in February, you're going to be at Photo Booth Expo and speaking this year. And I wanted to kind of give people out there who are going to be, kind of maybe thinking about coming out there, what will I get out of it? I really wanted to kind of dig into that. And for those of you who are interested in going, in the description below is the link and the code, the discount code. Those will get you the cheapest passes before Halloween. After Halloween, once the jack-o'-lanterns are decaying in the street, it's all over. You got to pay a higher rate. So go jump out there and check those and such. But Catalina, let's kind of go through. It looks, according to the schedule, you'll be speaking both Monday and Tuesday afternoon. So what are you going to be covering for the crowd this year?
I have two chats that I'm going to be doing. And if anyone who's ever attended one of my talks before, I like to give out tons of information, very useful information, things that you can apply right away. Generally, I give a lot of freebies as well, things that you can download and tangibles. People like tangibles. I know I always did when I, went to chats. I hate people who just kind of like say a bunch of words that mean nothing. So I like to be able to, hear back from people afterwards to make sure that stuff actually was informative for them and they could apply it. My first talk is one I did actually last year, and it's about how to close the corporate clients and how it is that I do it. So I actually will talk about where to find them, how to talk to them, because corporate clients do not speak, general population English, just almost another language completely. And if you don't know how to say the right words, you're going to lose these clients. But I'm also going to be showing the proposals that I do. And this is exactly how I present all of my quotes to my commercial clients and to my corporate clients. And so that is something that I'm going to be going through. And then the other one is one I'm really excited about, and I'm going to be doing it with Lexine from Lexi Booth, who is another photo booth company here in Ottawa. I am located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and it's about how to build community with your competition. A lot of people are all about competition, this, that, and the other thing. They're the enemy. They're not, like I talk to the majority of the photo booth owners in my area, and, we are always helping each other out and building each other up. And I think that's, one of the big reasons why we're all so successful in such a small city. So I'm really excited to do both of these talks this year.
So let's start with the corporate. We're going to be talking and digging into that a little bit. Corporate can range from small to large events. Are you going to be focusing on one side of the demographic or the other, or which direction are you going to take with that?
It's going to be a bit more of a general approach, just because with corporations, it's more about understanding how they're structured on the back end. I came from 14 years of being in the corporate world and understanding all that red tape. And so I just kind of demystifying, how these things can work and who you need to be talking to and what language you need to be using. And this can be applied to smaller little photo booth rentals that are maybe just a couple of hours long to long-term installations or even like really big brand activations. It doesn't really matter how big or small the event is. Just understanding how to communicate it to them is the biggest hurdle with any corporate client.
Certainly it is. And from my own personal experience, I can attest to the valuable information, certainly when that comes to that. So okay, we're going to talk about that. And then the second one you're going to be doing with, oh, shoot, I forgot her name. I didn't.
Lexine Menard.
Lexine.
Yeah.
What was the impetus, or what kind of made that topic really speak to you to want to deliver that?
Well, I mean, I see so much in all the Facebook groups. I'm very active in all the Facebook groups, right? I'm part of the photo booth supply code community. And one of the things that I love so much about their community was just how tight knit everyone is, despite being in the same cities or at least close by. In that group, it's almost like, oh, you own a photo booth supply code booth, and that person's almost like your instant family because you guys have the same photo booth, right? You've already made that connection. And I love that about the community. And then when I started seeing more owners in my city and in surrounding areas that had those photo booths, and I feel like, I don't know if, I guess here's a little bit different. We've never really had that community with businesses, right? So I just wanted to reach out to them and build that relationship. And one owner actually reached out to me first, and I was really happy because a lot of times, I'll introduce myself to someone in the area and it's almost like standoffish, right? Because they're like, oh, this person's my competition. I've had people block me in the past because they don't want to talk to me. Actually, the only bad review I have on Google is from another owner in this city.
Which is, they unfortunately.
Yeah, they don't all love me. That's okay. But, the owners that I do know, like we just had our 5-year anniversary party, and there was Lexine who came. She runs Lexi Booth here. And then we had Muna who came, who runs Wish Photo Booth. Both are extremely profitable and very well-known photo booth companies in the city. And it was just so nice to have them come out. And, we talk about like inside stuff and trends and help each other out with events. And quite frankly, there's a lot of times where they've saved my butt. I don't have a photo booth, or I had a photo booth go down. I don't have an extra one. And, I've driven to Muna's house at like 9:00 at night to pick up a photo booth before. And same with her. Like sometimes she needs a booth and she doesn't have enough. And I'm more than happy to help. And, I think that's one of the big things that's missing in a lot of people's minds is that they should be building these relationships with people, right?
Yes, certainly.
You can help them, they can help you, and it's not competition. There's more than enough business out there for everyone. We've never come across like a client where we've been bidding against to that extent, so because we have such unique business models. And I think that's what's really important too, that I do want to stress to people is, finding your niche, because there's a lot of business out there and everyone has their strengths. There's no such thing as like one company that can do everything. So, making sure that where your lane is, I guess.
Yeah, certainly.
It's very important. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've all been so successful. We know our lane, like we know what we're really good at, and we kind of stick to that. And we've been able to build each other up that way.
So in that situation, when you have someone call and you're thinking to yourself, I could possibly do this or an adequate job, what have you, but Lexine, this is more of her lane as you use. Is that something that happens now after you've built those relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'll either CC her on an email and saying like, hey, I want to introduce you to so-and-so, like this is my colleague,
Right.
you guys would be a better fit or something like that. Or I might just send her a Facebook message and say, here's their contact information, and that works with not just them, obviously, but people in surrounding cities too. Like Montreal is a city that's only about 2 hours away from me. We do quite a bit of work in Montreal, but there's events that, I know for the client, it's not going to be worth it for them to have us go out there for that specific service that they're looking to do. So I'll refer them to someone who I trust out there to do that job. In which case, again, I'll do the email introduction and send them the information as well. So that it's a clean handoff, right? It's
Sure.
not like I just dropped them and didn't respond or anything like that.
Catalina, you mentioned the word trust, that there's people out there or these other companies that you trust. Obviously, there's going to be the companies on the other side of the coin that you would not trust to send someone to. How do you build that relationship to be able to know that you can indeed trust these companies?
I mean, I think a lot of it just has to do with being able to see like how they operate, right? Like the companies that I know in my city, I've experienced them firsthand. I know the owners. I've interacted with the owners. maybe they've white labeled for me in the past or vice versa. But, you build that relationship with someone the first time you meet them, you get a pretty good gut feeling about who they are. And 9 times out of 10, my gut's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But contracts are also very important, especially like with white labeling, laying out everything. I've found regardless of, who that person is, it's important to tell people and be very transparent about what your expectations are. And if they can fulfill those expectations, perfectly, then great. I will trust you,
Sure.
and reviews, obviously. The wedding industry and event industry in our city is very small. So people talk, who doesn't show up to jobs, who doesn't present themselves well and who isn't professional. So you kind of just stay away from those. And it's not that I wouldn't talk to a person who I don't particularly find professional. I just won't send them business and
Sure.
probably wouldn't ask them for help.
Sure.
I'll help them maybe, but
if it works out and such, yeah. You mentioned white labeling. So kind of for those who are unfamiliar with how you're using that term in this situation, kind of define that and give us an example of that, if you would, please.
yeah, absolutely. This is probably one of the most asked about questions. I'd say top 5 for sure. White labeling is, let's say, for example, I'll give you 2 examples. One example is maybe you only have one photo booth, but you have a client that you work with quite a bit and they want to book your photo booth for their Christmas party. You don't want to say no to them. You don't want to give that client away to somebody else because it's a reoccurring client for you, but you don't have a photo booth. In that case, that's when I would reach out to somebody else and say, listen, I have a client. I need you to do this job for me. Are you available? That kind of thing. And then we work out an agreement. And a lot of people are going to ask like, well, what's the agreement? Depending on the scope of work, let's say it's a very basic photo booth job, just template, custom template, unlimited prints, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, I would do all the design work. I do all the communication with the client. And then I essentially treat that white label company as an employee or contractor, right? Where I send them all the information. They set up the booth, they run the event. But I would keep about anywhere between 25 and 30% of the cut. And then I would give them about 75 to 70% of the amount. And people might think like, well, that's not a really great way of making money. It's not necessarily meant to be there to make you money, right? It's meant to help you keep that client. It's there to help you continue your business or even grow it. If you get 2 or 3 of these where you have to white label out, it might be time for you to buy another photo booth, right? Or expand that business.
Certainly.
Another example is we have quite a few clients that will do events across Canada for us. We have 5 different locations that we can operate from directly. And then anything else, we need to send it out to someone. And see, in this case, these are generally very custom jobs. So we will make our money on the customization. So upselling designs or vinyl wraps or any type of microsite or live gallery, that kind of stuff. And then the actual event itself, we will outsource that to somebody who's local. And a lot of times, like the pricing structures might be a bit different. In that case, if they're just doing like the print portion of it, then we would make a little bit more money on that side just because of the customization that we're keeping in office, the administrative side of things, and then just paying out essentially the labor costs of it. So it really does help you build your business, and also will help you expand into bigger contracts where you may not have somebody in that area to work that event, but you can find someone who you can trust to at least represent you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's what I was hoping. Where you're going to head with that, and give us some good examples with that. So, you mentioned subcontractors. Now, I don't know if the rules are a little bit different, but with what we have to do here in the United States when it comes to subcontractor and the employee thing, I've done a couple of videos on that. How does that work in your situation with a photo booth company? Are you able to, these other companies, can they be subcontractors all the time, or does it get to this fine line where all of a sudden they become employees according to the government?
Yeah, that is a very complicated question.
Yeah.
I've looked at it a couple of ways. The way that we work with our subcontractors, like we essentially send out the contracts to the pool that we have, and they can either accept or decline it, which allows us to have some contract staff. And then we have full-time employees as well. In terms of contracting out to another company, as far as I know, and now you're going to make me go and talk to my accountant and lawyer. I'm pretty sure when I hire another company, because I'm
Yeah.
just hiring them
Yeah,
to
exactly.
essentially do a photo booth job, right? They're not essentially, they're just under contract with me to call themselves modern instead of whoever they are.
Certainly, yeah.
Right.
And
But I am going to look into that now because
that's a gray, as you said, that was a gray area here in the States also. And it kind of follows along the same situation as if they're another company and most of their money is being derived from a different business or different income sources, i.e. not from me, then it would be a white label subcontractor situation. So yeah, okay. So it's just as convoluted and messy in Canada as it is here. So I want to go back. You mentioned you guys are celebrating your 5th year into this. What brought you into the photo booth business?
I love telling this story. I was so I worked a corporate job. I worked for an insurance company for 14 years, but I also did photography. I always wanted to do photography, art stuff, and photography has always been a huge part of my life. I started off doing wedding photography on the side, but I couldn't make money. Like I was charging thousands of dollars at the end of the day once I factored in editing and shooting and all that other kind of stuff, equipment. You're making less than minimum wage. So I went to Vegas on no money at all. And when I was walking the floor, I went there for inspiration. I wanted to go see like the great photographers and see like how can they do this, right? And I was walking the trade show floor and I saw the Photo Booth Supply Co booth, and they had this beautiful legacy booth, which is the one that had the umbrella on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a picture and I'm like, wow, this is not a photo booth. Like I hated photo booths, to be quite honest. Anytime I saw those hats, all I could think of was like, that has lice on it for sure. Which is awful.
Disgusting. Get it away.
Yeah. I just wanted to take Lysol to it. But no, this booth, like I couldn't stop thinking about it. I called my husband and I was like, this just clicks. Like, I get it. This is beautiful. Like, we can market this. It's something different. I charged it on my mom's credit card. And it was my emergency credit card. Keep in mind, I'm like 26 or 27. Like I shouldn't have my parents' credit card anymore. But I had 30 days to explain or pay it off. And that was enough. So I paid for it, and the rest is kind of history. It went off so quickly. We bought our second booth within 6 months, and then our third, and then our second location, and then our third location. And then I quit my job 3 years into it, and here we are. 5 years later, full-time boothing and a couple locations, and still loving it.
Excellent. And now both you and your husband, you both work with the company, or is he?
I mean, he does work at the company, but no, he just really helps out quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But day to day is all me. Okay. And obviously my team. It's not just me. I have a big team of amazing people that I couldn't do without. That my staff is really, like, I have to say they are top people, and I love working with them every day.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that question is because sometimes little tips with working with one spouse on a business, a small business can be a great thing, and sometimes it can be a little stressful thing working with the significant other. So that's why I was kind of wondering about that. It's like, that could be something.
Yeah, moving. I don't know if we. I mean, I'm sure we work really closely with a lot of stuff, but and he does, like I said, help quite a bit. I don't know if we could do it all day long. I like my husband.
Yeah, exactly. But we also need our space once in a while. Look at that.
Well, it's more, I think it's more like he's like a break for me, right? Like I feel like I think about photo booths 24/7. Yeah. So at least I can hang out with him, and it's like I'm not thinking about business anymore.
We won't be talking shop all night long. Mm-hmm. We got a couple of questions in the chat room here. I've been kind of getting into them. Dave asked a question about with the multiple locations and keeping things organized. Obviously, you're using some tools, and not only just having good people in place, but there's got to be some tools you're using to keep organized with all these things.
Yes, I am a firm believer of automation. I love systems. The only thing I might love more than photo booths is systems. So I actually do have a CRM system. I use Pixify. There's other ones out there, obviously, like Boothbook, CheckCherry, Tave, a lot of different systems that you can use. But I chose to go with Pixify just because it is so broad in what I can do with it. We manage all of our locations out of that, and a lot of it's automated. Lead generation. There's forms in there. There's email, all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of Google Docs with our workflows, everything's documented as much as possible. We have a lot of manuals. And so we try to make sure that everything is the same in every location. And every time we come up with something new, we try to document it, which is very hard to do. And it's time consuming, but it's so necessary. The more you grow, the more information you have to have, because training people takes a lot and you forget, right?
Yeah.
I had to do a quote for the first time in I don't know how long myself today. And I had to sit there and go like, wait a minute. How do I do this again? So I, look back on our manual. I'm like, right. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So manuals are super important. And, I think people are intimidated by it. But every time you do something, just write it down. Like if you're sending an email and you know how you want to structure it, like write that down somewhere, like how to reply to a client, use this tone, structure it like, hello, information, here's your quote and goodbye. It's that simple. And if you do it in baby steps, it won't seem as large. And one day you'll start off with 2 or 3 pages. And next thing you know, you'll have 400.
Now, this little part of our talk this will become a seminar that she'll be giving on how to add staff to your photo booth business.
Sure. I could definitely talk about that too.
You just did a wonderful job. It's like I'm creating a job description for the person I want to hire to do all these things. That's exactly.
Oh yeah, my job descriptions generally end up as point form notes, like who is this person, and I write down everything I want them to do, and then I have to translate that. Sometimes I just post them like that. You need to do Photoshop for 3 hours a day.
Yeah. And if you can go and check most of them off, we'll think about hiring.
Exactly.
Funny. You had mentioned earlier when you were talking about the different locations and such that you guys do wraps and different, more creative things with your show. So obviously your photo booth company is kind of focusing on those higher end events. What kind of took you that direction as opposed to maybe kind of being in the middle of the market?
So I never say no. I really find that the only way that you can get out of your comfort zone is being challenged and feeling uncomfortable. I find that the most successful events and crazy stuff that we've done, I've been super stressed about it and uncomfortable. It's, when it's easy, it's just not going to really challenge you to explore what you can do, right? But I find that the pressure just makes you really think outside the box and think of every other channel you can possibly do to make something really exciting and big and creative and bring people into these activations, right? Because you can make something that's super extravagant, but if it's not going to appeal to people to come and enjoy it, then you kind of haven't really done your job. So I think my customers were coming to me and saying like, hey, I have a crazy idea and I need this, this, and this. Can you do it? And I would say yes, and then panic for like 24 hours trying to research how the heck could I do it? Like I would obviously know, okay, well, I know that this part can be done because I've seen something similar, and this part can be done because I've seen it kind of applied here. Right. And then it was just piecing those pieces together, right? So it's not like I just say yes to everything. It's an educated yes. Maybe. and
the creativity is really the driving force, is you like to be that creative person as opposed to, in essence, an order taker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's what keeps it interesting, right? Doing the same thing over and over again isn't really, it's repetitive. It's not enjoyable to a certain extent. You need to challenge yourself, right? In order to grow, you need to challenge. And,
certainly.
I think that fear and going through those things where you're uncertain of the outcome is not only going to help you grow as a person and as a company, but you just learn so much out of it that you can then apply to other stuff. And now I feel like the things that we're saying yes to that some people might think are really crazy, for us, we're like, yeah, no problem. Like we can do that. No problem. And sometimes our clients are like, really? Like just like that? You can just do this super quickly? And we're like, yeah, because we've gone through it at this point. But to them, it's still mind-blowing, right? Like something as simple as automatically printing a photo that was taken across the room to them is like,
wow. Yeah, I was here and it happened over there.
Yeah, exactly. So
fun.
Yeah,
I've got a couple more. I got a couple more questions for you. Before I get to those, though, if you guys are interested in coming and joining us in Las Vegas, February 24th through the 27th, you can go out to pbntv.com/tickets. That will take you to the portal to buy your show pass, the full show pass. That pass, before you do that, enter the promo code of PBX Show 2020. All this information is down in the description below the video here. Enter that in. You're going to get a half price. I think it's a half price ticket. Anyway, the ticket's as cheap now as it's going to be the rest. It's going to be going up Halloween night, midnight, October 31st. It goes up higher. So get your tickets now. Join us February 24th through the 27th down at the South Point Casino in Las Vegas. 2 more questions that I've got, then unless there's more that jump into the chat room. We're talking about creativity and how that's so much excitement and fun. Think back to one of the most creative ones that was kind of a challenge that you really, really enjoyed. And could you share a little bit about what that project was like? That would be, I'm curious now after some of what you talked about beforehand and such. This could be fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of actually living it right now, so I can't tell you too much detail, but this is definitely the biggest project we've ever worked on. One of my clients came to me and said, this is really not something that you guys would probably normally do, but humor me. And so, I asked, well, what are the parameters? He said, nothing. Just what would you do? And I loved it. I had this thing in my head that I'd been thinking about for a really long time. And, I think I spent probably like 2 days just creating this proposal and just putting it all out there. Like literally, this is no holds bar. Put it all out there.
You just blank slate, do something and go.
Yeah. And I even priced it out and I was like, there's no way, there's just no way. And they loved it. And so that's when we started going through making this come to life. And it's been a lot of long nights and I'm, learned a lot of new, I don't know, skills, I guess, that I can definitely apply. But it's been stressful for sure because it is a really large project, but I'm so excited. Every time we finish another part of it, it's just super exciting. I can't wait to show everyone once it's all done. So keep an eye on that if you're interested to find out on our Instagram account. It's at Modern Photo Booth, which is no vowels, MDRN, photoboothcompany.com. And you'll kind of see all the crazy stuff that we're up to because, like I said, no day is the same. Yesterday we were throwing chicken feathers at each other. So,
so you're thinking the hats are gross because there might be lice, but you're throwing chicken feathers that could be.
Hey, they were in an IKEA pillowcase, so I'm sure they're clean.
It's actually a great question, Dave. Dave threw out the question, what's one of the biggest challenges right now in the photo booth industry?
Oh, I mean, there's quite a few. I think it's with any industry, right? There's challenges. I think educating the consumer is probably one of the biggest things that people go through just in general, and being able to communicate our worth to people. I think we forget easily that we are professionals and what we do from day to day is not simple, even though it looks simple, right? Taking a picture, putting an overlay on it, printing it, like something as basic as that kind of photo booth to us is so easy. To the general public, it's not. So valuing ourselves and our service and charging accordingly is, I think, the biggest challenge that we have. There's a lot of people that just sell the service in order to just make a couple of quick bucks here and there. And it devalues, unfortunately, the entire industry. And people start to believe that they're not worth the money, but you are. What you have in your head and what you can do with your equipment is very, very valuable information, and you need to charge for it.
And that was actually Raymond just came up with a question, and you kind of were hitting on that, where he's talking about all the time of the prep of the putting everything together, and then getting paid for that. Because sometimes people will look at it and say, well, you're charging X and they're charging half of X, and you're the same, aren't you? And I'm sure that's not just what I see in this area.
No, and that's the same everywhere. I mean, it's not like I've never had a client be like, well, so-and-so is going to do it for like $500 less. And to be honest, I'll tell them and be like, I can't beat that price. If you're going to come to me on price, I'm not your photo booth company, and then I go into a spiel about why we charge what we charge. But some people are just price driven, and you need to understand very early on that if they are price driven, that's just not your customer. And they need to go with that budget person. And if that budget person can sustain themselves for a long duration of time, because maybe they actually don't care about making profit and they're just trying to make petty cash type of thing,
Right.
then great, let them do their thing. They're never going to exceed what they are at this point, because they won't be able to. They won't have cash flow. Eventually, it'll just cease to exist. But just keeping yourself and remembering that, because it is hard to walk away from someone who's about to give you money, even if it is $500 less than what you asked for. But they come back, because once that other company does a really bad job or doesn't show up or ceases to exist, they come back to someone who they know has been steadily in the industry and delivering a consistent product over and over again. So just keep to it. I know it hurts to watch them walk away, but let them walk away sometimes.
You mentioned, of course, that price person. There are times, though, that that price person may not know enough or know the right questions to ask, and they jump, to price right away. How do you evaluate fairly quick, in those first moments of the conversation, to know if they're that price person that needs to go, just to let them go away, or someone that just doesn't know, and you can take them through, the value of what you do?
Well, the first thing we always do with anyone who comes in, whether they talk to us about price or not, we treat all of our leads the same. We pick up the phone and we call them, because they might not know, like you said, the value of having a photo booth. And everyone has a different goal to have a photo booth or a photo activation or video activation at their event. Some people want it just for fun. Some people want it to collect emails. Some people want it to attract people to their trade show booth. There's all different types of goals. And you can't market to those people properly unless you know what their goal is. So picking up the phone, talking to them about their event, and finding out what their pain points are and how you can address those is how you get money from people. Because if you just say, here's a photo booth, it's $1,500, they're going to be like, huh? But if you say, like, here's this photo booth, it's going to collect all these emails for you. We're even going to do your first consent. People were going to consent to allow you to communicate with them. You're going to take a picture, you're going to print it to them. It's going to be branded. You're going to have your branding on it, collecting emails. People are going to come to your trade show booth. You're showing value for your service. Now you're charging them $1,500 to be a lead generator. You're not charging them $1,500 to be a photo booth, right? So it's understanding your clients. If you understand what they need, you can charge accordingly.
So in many of those cases, when you're working with corporate clients, you are selling them a marketing tool over a photo booth, really. And it just so happens that marketing tool involves a photo booth, but you're selling that benefit, and they jump on it. Excellent. Mm-hmm. Great. Nicholas says it feels great to say no sometimes. Okay, I think we'll go to last question. If you could look into the crystal ball and look to the next 2 to 5 years in the photo booth industry, what do you think is going to be the thing that's going to keep photo boothers alive in this industry and thriving?
I see a really interesting shift. There's two things that, will always happen. The old becomes new again. So, enclosed booths used to be like the no thing, and when the open air booths came out. And I think we're going to see a lot of enclosed booths coming back, and that's going to be kind of like the retro thing, but more of the wooden, bigger kind of photo booths. But then the other direction is kind of the more futuristic stuff. I see a big shift in video. Lighting is going to be a big thing, bringing in, and we see that with some of the big wigs, the Emmys and the Met Gala, all that kind of stuff. They're using lighting effects and different types of LEDs and all that kind of stuff. So I really see video and lighting being the future, and then bringing back kind of like that retro enclosed booth is going to be another big thing coming out. But mostly it's going to be about experiences. It's not so much about the product anymore. It's all about what kind of experience you can build for people and to attract them to come and experience it.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought there. The experience seems to be kind of a common thread I've been hearing from many people as we look into the future, because people will pay for experiences. They won't pay for other things. So
definitely.
Great chat, Catalina. Thank you for being on, and thank you guys for watching. We had, I think we topped out at about 84 that I was just counting down with all the different channels. So a nice crowd tonight. And if you guys liked the videos, please give it a like on them wherever that is down below. Probably down in that lower corner, which actually would be down at that corner. I'm trying to do everything's backwards. So in one of the corners, go give it a like. Catalina will be speaking at Photo Booth Expo on Monday and Tuesday afternoons around that 2:00 time frame. And of course, the full schedule will be out here, and you guys can check that out as we get closer to the show. Once again, Catalina, thank you for being on tonight.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll catch you guys later. Good night, everybody.
Bye.